you tired of explaining to people? Story 1, I am perfectly happy doing nothing. Nothing could be just sitting on my couch, or my porch, or on my phone. Not having plans is the best thing ever. I'm a very, very simple man. Story 2, I wear a hat, beanie, or some sort of a head covering to work every day since I developed alopecia areata in 2013. I work in a plant, and it's dusty dirtedry, and so that I don't have to wash my hair every day, the hat keeps the debris out of my scalp. With alopecia, I lose a lot of hair when I shampoo. I am a woman. So many coworkers have asked why I always wear a hat. When I downplay it, I don't like to wash my hair every day. Other women are like you. I bet your head smells. I wash mine every day, indeed, because it gets filthy from the environment we work in. Every now and then, I will try to explain alopecia to others, and they are horrified with the thought of an autoimmune disease that makes you lose hair in patches, and then they treat me differently, like I'm going to die soon. So now I just say I love hats. Can't get enough of them. Edit, wow, I did not know this was going to go so far. I am overwhelmed with how many of us have had to face the question of, why do you always wear a hat, regardless of alopecia? You know, it's crazy that a head covering causes such inquiry. Question we should be asking is, why are you not wearing a hat? Story 3, that just because I seem perfectly functional, can hold a job, and seem pretty assertive does not mean that I am not constantly fighting my own mental illness, anxiety, and physical ailments. I just have strong coping mechanisms and working medication. I also have spent almost 10 years getting to this point, so I can look hack this normal. Story 4, no, am not lonely. Yes, I am fine. Yes, I do like it alone here. The amount of people who seem to not be able to comprehend how introverts work is amazing. We don't hate people, we just find it exhausting to be around them. That doesn't mean we dislike being around them. It just means there's a limit to how much we can do. Also, some people just aren't mentally draining to be around. That's how you know you are really close and really like their company, not hard people. Story 5, that freedom of religion also means freedom of no religion. If someone says God bless you or we are praying for you, we are supposed to be happy for that. But I say Jesus Christ after I stub my toe, and I get an earful about using the Lord's name in vain, like those are your rules, not mine. Story 6, that they don't need to come up with some diabolic scheme to track you, because you willingly pay to carry a GPS with facial recognition around in your pocket. Story 7, how odds work, particularly with how the last outcome doesn't influence the next. If 50-50 each time you flip the coin, flying with a plane crash survivor doesn't reduce the chances of a plane crash this time. There's no such thing as being due. But also that you cannot calculate odds with a sample size of 1, and that extraordinary long odd events happen all the time. For example, if you lay out a 52-card deck, the odds of that configuration that it ended up in is something like 1 in several octillion. But there it is. It doesn't mean divine intervention or magic. Second place goes to how averages work. Story 8, Hollywood has always been rehashing for a quick buck. It's nothing new. Before Hollywood, the literary and theater industries were doing the exact same thing. What happens is forgotten and greatness is remembered. So we only remember the handful of great films from the past instead of the many more ones. In 50 years, no one is going to remember Halloween Kills or Addams Family 2. They will be complaining about another James Bond or King Kong reboot. Story 9, my childhood trauma. The moment something comes up in passing, I'm no contact with my mother. So usually it's someone casually asking how she is, etc. And they feel like they have a right to know about all the experiences that lead me to go no contact. I don't owe them any examples. But the whole she's your mother mentality of society makes people demand answers when it's none of their business. I don't need to relive my trauma to help others understand why I've set certain boundaries. Story 10, my medical disorders. If I'm having a flare-up, I just want people to mind their own business and leave me alone instead of bugging me to explain what's happening. I can explain later, just let me focus on what I need to do to feel better before harassing me. Especially if I say it's okay and ITLL pass in about 30 minutes to an hour, and they continue to bother me. Story 11, that I do know am short-sighted. That no, it's no okay to steal my glasses from my face and then try them on to tell me, wow, you're almost blind. No heck, Sherlock, plus my glasses are a personal item. I wear them every day, and we are in the middle of a pandemic. Story 12, that you could be an addict and still function as a normal human being, going to work, having kids, being a great parent and a great coworker and human. You only see the addicts that are on the streets doing bad. Addiction is insanely widespread in normal homes. Story 13, how it's okay to stop enjoying games that you're not having fun with to find something else to play. It's specific, but it's getting annoying to read and hear people that put themselves in such a dilemma because they bought a handful of games yet don't enjoy some of them. That's when you have to tighten your preferences and standards of what games you find fun. Nobody else can do that for you. So it's a waste of time having to ask people if X is worth playing for the Y amount of your time. Story 14, that I'm not lazy. I'm severely depressed and have OCD and it's somatized, and I simply don't have the energy to work. JK, never told that to anyone. BC stigma. Story 15, how I can do the same things as people who can see, but I'm blind. Yes, I am a college student. Yes, I actually have a paying job and pay taxes every year. No, it is not inspiring because I'm blind. It's just normal. Would never say this in real life, though. I am far too polite for that. Story 16, agriculture. Yes, I like helping educate people about it. I like helping people know what they eat, that's fine. But when I get people saying I abuse my animals or poison my crops, come on, guys, use your common sense. Yes, there's a very small number of places where this could possibly happen, but people don't seem to realize there's laws around this. If I did this stuff, I wouldn't be able to sell my produce. Bruised or malnourished carcasses don't sell. You get fined, and crops with chemicals in them would be binned and also fined for. I love my profession. I really do, but some people really need to think before quoting false information at me. P.S. Also, please stop complaining about tractors being slow. They're doing their job. Putting more of the horsepower into speed would reduce their pulling power, which is what we need. We don't need to tow trailers at 70 miles per hour. We need to be able to pull a plow through the ground mostly. Story 17, it's less about what I'm tired of explaining and more who I'm explaining to. I'm perfectly happy to explain something to someone who is confused on something I have knowledge on, or to explain my thinking to a more knowledgeable person to improve my own understanding. Anyone else? No. An explanation shouldn't lead into an argument. Story 18, COVID vaccine is not going to turn you gay, make you magnetic, put a microchip in you, turn you into a liberal socialist, and whatever Bats Hit conspiracy theory Q is pushing this week. Story 19, yes, I'm 17. Yes, I have had a job for 13 years. Family business. No, it's not a show. And no, I did not just play in store. I did what I could and what was safe. I knew one specific job, nearly perfectly aside from the hot stuff I couldn't touch till it was 8 by the time I was 6. I was training people by the time I was 9. And by the time I was 13, 14, I was cooking. When I turned 15, I became head cook. Just because it didn't happen to you does not mean it's bullshit. And yes, I probably have more money than you did at my age, unless you come from a wealthy family, or also work you are off. I'm sick of having to stop and tell people that it's not illegal and that it's not a lie. It's my life. Also, I'm tired of explaining that I like girls and want kids, and that it is possible. Story 20, when I was like 3 or 4, we used to live in a colony of sorts. P.S. We moved to apartment housing after that neighbors were celebrating a festival. Don't remember, and Mom had me in her arms. You know, me being a child and all, so... Anyways, everyone was cracking firecrackers, and Mom handed me a sparkler firecracker. Like I was holding it with a child's grip, and Mom had a firm one on mine, so I guess something grabbed her attention, and her grip loosened on my sparkler holding hand, and down it goes on the back of my hand. Long story short, it left behind a wrinkly scar, and somehow, everyone who meets me notices it. I begrudgingly tell them the story, and months later they forget it, and notice my hand again, and ask the same story, and I'm so tired of it. Mom says she'll have me get a plastic surgery, but I tease her that if I ever get lost or something, she'll be able to recognize me with it. And she's like, yeah, 'cause she just wants to see my face. Nah, she'll see my hab first. Story 21, that I have bipolar, but it's not like I'm a crazy sociopath. I just have weird swings here and there, and medicated. I see a therapist every week, and I see a psychiatrist every month. Story 22, oh boy, where to start. That a light year is distance, not time. That cracked knuckles doesn't cause arthritis. That cheese doesn't give you nightmares. I have others, unfortunately, none of which come to mind at the moment, as I'm tired. Story 23, that I can eat whatever I want, despite having type 2 diabetes. There are things that trigger a hyper, and I've figured out what most of them are, so I don't eat, drink those things. Stress is a much bigger factor for hypers for me. Story 24, not sure why I ever had to explain it. But just because I believe in abstinence doesn't mean I'm straight and simply want to wait until marriage. It was a whole pain in the explanation to a friend. Story 25, why I would care about anyone else getting vaccinated if I'm vaccinated and vaccines work. At this point, there's literally nobody who hasn't heard the reasoning, and anyone who asks such questions is just ceiling, so I don't even bother. Story 26, how most of the wars we've fought in the last 30 years haven't been about what the media says they are about. Rather, that they have been efforts to preserve U.S. hegemony. The concept is simply too abstract for a populace that didn't have to take either a civics or an economics 101 during a high school diploma. And sadly, my understanding of the matter qualifies as very well informed among my countrymen, when in fact I have only a basic skeletal grasp of geopolitics. We're a shitstorm of stupid in this nation, and because of that, it won't be a nation for very much longer. When U.S. hegemony eclipses, There will be a war like only your grandparents will truly understand. Story 27, that neonatal circumcision is not okay. No, it's not okay to do it for religious reasons. No, it's not okay to do it for cultural reasons. No, it doesn't have medical benefits, especially that would be relevant to a baby. And no, he won't get made fun of for being intact. Story 28, there is no fundamental difference between Trump and Biden. It's all window dressing. One courts the prejudices of the right wing. The other courts the prejudices of the centrists. But at the end of the day, both of them are for no health care, no Green New Deal, no tuition relief, more tax cuts for the rich, more corporate handouts. We can't fix these problems, but can I sell you on French performative theater? People get very upset by this. How can you say they're both the same? One's a fascist sins mean tweet shades these people whatever. At the end of the day, Virginia Slims and Marlboro Reds are both cigarettes. Made from tobacco? Story 29, that the McDonald's hot coffee lawsuit was a smear campaign targeting an elderly lady who got third-degree burns on her thighs and genitals. Admitted the spill was her fault, and only asked McDonald's to pay for her medical bills because the coffee was served at like 200 degrees. No, she did not purposely spill the coffee on herself. No, she did not sue because she was not warned that the coffee would be hot, and no, she did not win millions because of the lawsuit. Story 30, I'm a software dev. I did not gain magical powers or infinite knowledge to automatically fix every electronic device when I graduated college. Seriously, every time I get asked to fix some hardware, I just Google the problem and simply try stuff. I honestly do not know why your computer is leaking black goo. I can't hack into your ex's Apple or Facebook account. Your revolutionary $1 million app idea sucks and is poorly thought out. Story 31, that just because the First Amendment doesn't apply to private businesses, it doesn't mean that they shouldn't still uphold freedom of speech as a principle. Story 32, saying someone is acting like something is not the same as calling them that thing. The fact that I use that thing as a metaphor for their behavior indicates clearly that I do not think they are that. Story 33, worked as computer support for a year. And nope, I don't ask, did you turn it off and on again? Because I don't want to deal with you and just get rid of you. A computer is like a giant machine that has thousands of other things running at the same time. And with any machine, there's a chance one of those 1,000 things didn't start correctly or just stopped working in the process. This is very often the problem, and restarting your PC will fix it. Story 34, dietary restrictions. The conversation usually goes something like, so you can't have anything with no weight, so you can't have no, but what about no, not that either. What happens if you only have a little bit? I still get sick, so you can't have either. No, actually, that's safe. But wait, if you can have, why can't you have? Well, has but doesn't. I don't know how you do it. I'd die if I couldn't eat. Story 35, that people are born LGBTQ. Pedophiles and zoophiles aren't remotely part of the community, and people being openly LGBTQ isn't being annoying, it's normalizing it. And by calling it annoying, you're part of the problem, as you've quite blatantly missed the get over it part of him here. I'm queer, get over it. Story 36, why their gender studies or liberal arts degrees and 5 years of managerial experience at Starbucks don't qualify them for the positions we're looking to fill. Story 37, why they actually do need to read to their children and generally interact with them for them to reach their potential, and that schools really only can teach. We can't raise children. Story 38, why I don't want kids. I've just started saying I don't want to maybe pass my unknown seizure condition on to them to shut them up. But I didn't want kids even before then. I just am not good with stress, and I wouldn't be a good mother. Story 39, neurotransmitters, such as GABA, dopamine, serotonin, etc., do not have specific functions. All brain functions involve many different neurotransmitters, and all neurotransmitters are used in many different brain circuits. Describing dopamine as a reward chemical or GABA as a chill chemical makes about as much sense as referring to electrons as particles, because internet can be encoded in electrical signals. Also, neurotransmitters and hormones are two different things, and the difference is a really big one. For what it's worth, I have a PhD in neuroscience and am a researcher studying the function of dopaminergic brain circuits. Story 40, I'm quite tired of explaining to ignorant dog owners that they need to put their dog on a leash. My Sphinx cat loves to go places with me, so I have a sling I buckle her into when she comes with me. Countless times while I was on a walk with her, these big dogs will just come barreling toward us, without a leash sometimes, not even collar harness, and their owners will say dumb like it's okay. Hesh is friendly. The one that really gets on my nerves is my dog would never attack anyone. Your dog may not be prone to attack people, but there's no predicting whether your big German Shepherd or Labrador Retriever is going to see my cat as an organic chew toy. Like, royally you if you do this outside of your own property, someone else's property whose permission you have to be on, or a dog park where is allowed. Let's not forget that not having your dog on a leash is illegal in a good majority of the United States. I know for a fact it's a law where I live. I also love when people shame me for having my cat with me on a walk. Why can't I have her with me? If my cat is provoking your dog, then your dog is the problem. My cat is just chilling in her sling. I remember seeing a video online where these people were trying to walk their pig around a neighborhood, and some gatekeeping called the police. I was livid. It's not all about you or your dog. People are allowed to walk with their pets that aren't dogs in public. There are also so many videos of dogs attacking people and other animals because their thick-skulled owners don't know how to put a leash on. This doesn't include stray dogs, obviously. There's going to be that one person, and I know it. Seriously, these people shouldn't be allowed to own dogs if they're going to be this dumb, break laws, and endanger others because of some half-baked excuse about their dog being friendly. You don't know everything about your dog, or any pet for that matter. No one does. Get off your high horse and leash your pets. I literally just want to have an easygoing walk with my hairless cat. Why is that too much to ask? Side note, I do have a leash on my cat when she's buckled into the sling, when she doesn't really need it. I know there's going to be another one of that person. Stop telling me to just be happy when I'm feeling depressed. Of course I want to be happy, but it's not that easy. Story 41, the difference between a pedophile and a child abuser. Getting tired of explaining the difference and that they're not interchangeable. Even with sources, people still choose to be willfully ignorant. Story 42, Shakespeare 1 here, but I end up auto-correcting people when they say methinks the lady doth protest too much. The actual sentence is the lady doth protest too much. Methinks source. I've played the character that says this. Story 43, why I hate my mother. Everyone seems to assume that all mothers are angels and that whoever doesn't love their mom has either been manipulated or are immature. When I suddenly tell them that my mother manipulated me, used me and terrorized me, lied to a court about how my suspected schizophrenia makes me aggressive and bad. When it's not even confirmed I have schizophrenia and only crawl into a ball and start crying when I have a psychotic episode, they change their mind. Why am I forced to tell everyone my life story to people to avoid them thinking I'm a piece of how corporatization is not capitalism? Story 44, just because someone else has it worse, it doesn't mean my problems don't exist. Some people really believe that only the worst off person in the world is allowed to be sad. Everyone else is perfectly okay. Story 45, that I'm not a recovering alcoholic. I just don't drink. I hate it when I'm treated like a social pariah because no one around me can think of a way to have fun without alcohol. Story 46, no. Someone reacting negatively to what you said is not infringing upon your freedom of speech. Freedom of speech means the government cannot punish you for what you say or restrict you from saying it. Private businesses and citizens are free to punish you through firing and ostracization because they disagree with your shitty opinion. Story 47, cabin crew aren't stupid. Many of us hold highly respected degrees, are ex-legal representatives, paramedics, nurses, accountants, entrepreneurs, and more. We aren't sky waitresses. We study for weeks on end covering everything from air sickness to delivering a baby, a blown circuit breaker to a full evacuation due to clearly catastrophic conditions. We deserve to be treated like human beings. Story 48, I'm tired of having to tell Uber drivers yes. That's my real name. It's not even uncommon at all, but so often an Uber driver will tactlessly ask me all sorts of questions about it, or even repeatedly laugh at it, as though it's the most odd thing they've ever heard. Story 49, if you wouldn't date a trans person, you're a transphobe, you're just an incel. But on the different side of the political spectrum, whatever happened to not judging people for their preferences? No one owes you, just stop it. Story 50, that migraines are not bad headaches, and don't just involve head pain. I have aphasia, brain fog, light and sound sensitivity, nausea, upset stomach, vomiting for days. Tell me again to drink water and take an Advil. Story 51, why I don't have children. It really sucks when people say at my age not having children means I'm either selfish or my lady parts don't work. So in response, I may say, I haven't met someone I wanted to have children with, and guess what they say, Reddit? You don't plan for children, they just happen. Story 52, that attraction and romantic attraction are not the same thing. I'm straight. People assume this means I'm not interested in dating because they just hear the part, I have a girlfriend who I love. That's the straight part. However, I have no interest in, if my girlfriend wants to have, I have with her because it gives her pleasure. I personally don't get any pleasure from this. That's the part after we always end up cuddling or do something that I enjoy. It's win-win as far as we're concerned. Likewise, if we do something I enjoy first and she's in the mood, I don't have an issue having with her afterwards. It just means I don't go out of my way to have because I'm not interested in it. No, it's not low libido. No, it's not depression related. I find overrated. It's as simple as that, and I wish more people would understand this. Story 53, I live in South Korea. Absolutely everyone thinks it's funny to confirm that I don't live in the North. Then they ask if I'm worried I'm going to get blown up. No, you don't voluntarily live someplace if you're sure there will be a nuclear war there. Story 54, anytime you think you're outraged, there's almost always more to the story that make it not as bad as you think. There's always more context and nuance to happenstance than you're privy to, which means that 99 of all outrage is misguided. Law is not perfect and can't be, but it is a better system than you think. Bullshit, unfair judgments aren't as common as you think. Occam's razor isn't that the simplest answer is best. It's that, with all other factors equal, the answer that has the fewest assumptions is the strongest argument. It simply means that, if given multiple options, the one that requires you fill in the fewest blanks is simpler and thus stronger. That the customer is always right doesn't mean every individual customer is right, and that the companies have to cater to their Karen and Kevin behavior. It means that it's the job of the business to follow the market, since it's the market as a whole that determines trends. That blood is thicker than water likely means the exact opposite of what you think it means. It's meant to say that the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb, meaning it literally means that family is not as important as those you chose to have in your life. That whole McDonald's thing with the woman burning her crotch was 100 McDonald's fault. The woman was being incredibly lenient, and if you knew the details of the case without the bullshit PR spin, you'd agree. Gaming filmmaking art as a whole is more diverse and creative now than it has ever been. With so many people having so much access to so many tools and so many creators, be it filmmakers, artists, writers, game developers, etc., it means that we've got more out there to choose from than ever before. As an addendum to that, this idea that mainstream media is homogenized is just horrendously wrong and misguided. Just because a lot of people find it easy to watch like Transformers or superhero movies, I love the MCU. Don't get me wrong, doesn't mean there isn't art around there. Mass media is mass for a reason. Pretty much every faulty argument the conservatives use. They're so prevalent, so recycled, and so easy to debunk with even the slightest of research into non-biased sources, yet they perpetuate because on the surface they appear to make logical sense, and they elicit an emotional response. It's so transparent to anyone willing to scrutinize sources and the actual history behind their claims, but so easy to absorb and regurgitate to the masses who can't be bothered to actually discern between good information and bad information. Seriously, almost everything you read, almost every article you cite, every situation that makes you rage, there's always more to the story than you think. Keep that in mind before blowing your top. Sadly, this will not slow the spread of rage culture or misinformation, but it can greatly decrease your own anxiety. Story 55, how to wear a God mask properly. Edit. I'm working with a lot of homeless people or people in need. Most of them are not vaccinated, and I understand that they are currently living a life where they have other concerns. But if they come to us for seeking help, I'll love to help, but it's not that hard to at least follow our conditions for our own protection. And some just refuse to wear the mask, and most times, it's always the same people. Story 56, that there are no apostrophes in plural words. Putting apostrophes in any word that ends with an S drives me insane. That lactose intolerance is not a milk allergy. Story 57, I'm tired of explaining to my children why they have to healthy food and not just junk food all day. I'm about to go through the house and throw it all away. Story 58, that I don't owe anyone my time. I don't owe anyone an explanation for why I don't answer a text or phone call immediately. If I'm not available, you don't need to know why, and you also don't need to take it personally. Story 59, communism is not the state owning stuff and doing stuff. Socialism is not the state owning stuff and doing stuff. Things are defined by their traits, not their labels. An authoritarian bureaucracy headed by one person with absolute power is a dictatorship, no matter what it calls itself or how many public programs it runs. A rose by any other name still has a stiff stem, thorns, and flowering buds. Story 60, that rape is not, that feminism is not extreme, that women are not bad drivers or over-emotional or intellectually inferior to men. That is wrong to equate assertive women with bitchiness. That men murder women at extremely alarming rates, and yet few people notice or are paying attention or care. Why we need to raise boys to be feminists more than we need to raise girls to learn how to protect themselves from boys. So many things. Story 61, that being in polyamorous does not imply that I want a threesome with you in your GF or any type of group at all. Why is it so difficult for people to understand? Story 62, that I'm not living an insufferable life. BC, I'm autistic. Dude, I'm happy, like really I am. I don't need a magic cure. I am who I am, and I love that about myself. Only thing I want to cure is your weird attitude about it. Story 63, yes. They're technically my parents, but they're also abusive and I owe them nothing. The fact we share DNA doesn't mean I'm not allowed to cut them out of my life. Story 64, I have 2 tattoos from a certain anime. It's called One Piece. No, I won't regret them. I love the show, have done for years. Also, what I do with my body is up to me.